It's our Tuesday night team call. Of course, all teams are welcome. But wanted to thank you for joining us this evening. It was an absolutely gorgeous day out. I know there's people out there that have had baseball like me and soccer and all kinds of things going on this spring, but want to welcome you and thank you so much for joining us on the call. We have a terrific guest tonight. I'm not going to go into any details and spoil it. I'm going to go ahead and just introduce our host. If you're not familiar with Mr. Richard, he is an executive consultant in the business. He is a businessman in his own right. He owns several Dickey's barbecue restaurants. He is a musician and owns a music box company. He also had a graphics business he sold a few years back for several $1 million. So he's very well versed, not only in Ambit, but also in business as well. He is extraordinarily, oh my gosh, the word just flew out of my head. I'm having a night. No, it wasn't sexy, but hey, thanks, I appreciate that. It was creative. He brought us the 3x4 and the purge calls on Sunday night, which has changed people's businesses for the better, completely changed them, and just been a fantastic thing for all of us. And he thinks he's the sexiest person in the world, so I'm just going to get right off the phone and get him on the line, Mr. Richard Laidler.
Oh, come on, you know I am.
Okay, whatever you say.
Listen, I'm getting texts coming through. You guys know how this is. This is an organic call. You guys could text me, and I've had a few people saying, yes, sexy. Well, hello, not just me then. Michelle, thank you very much for the intro. I love it. Thank you very much for emceeing before 9 o'clock, which is wonderful. And hey, guys, thank you very much for getting on the call, and also with your right or left hand, depending on whether you're left-handed or right-handed, give yourself a pat on the back for taking the time out to plug into the calls. It's all part of the Ambit system, is to make sure you're plugging into the team calls and hearing who's coming on the call and listening to Michelle, myself, and our special guests. And the purpose of these calls is that there's a number of calls around the area, and they're all really, really great. I do suggest you kind of vary where you go. Have a listen into other people's calls. I love you, and of course, I know if I let you go, you'll come back. But I just wanted to make sure that you get to hear some flavor of some of the other calls. There's some other calls even during the day, which are really awesome. But the purpose of this call is I like to get down to the nitty-gritty of what we need to do. There's a time and a place for motivation, and when we have special guests, there are motivating moments. But also I like to kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty details, especially with some of the people who've been in the business a little while, like myself and my guests. We've been running partners for a long time. We've been through everything you're going through. I don't care what it is, apart from the surgery, Paul. I don't think I've had surgery during the 7 years, but I have once upon a time. We've been through it, whether it's, a customer issue or whether it's a consultant issue, whether being told this or told that, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We've probably experienced something very similar. So I like to get into the nitty-gritty of how someone got through their business, the good, the bad, the ugly, the fantastic, and everything in between. So that's kind of what I like to do on this call, and tonight will be no difference. And I have to say, for my guest tonight, you've kind of you got two tough acts to follow. The 2 guests ago was EC Darren McClure, and 1 guest ago was EC Paul Jenkins. And I know you are as wonderful and as fantastic as them, but hey, they were good, man. I'm just setting the bar for you. I hope you're going to be really great. Way to set up an interview, right? Way to make your guests feel really comfortable and really at home. But what I want to do is bring our guests on the call so we can take advantage of the time we have together. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dive straight on in. This guy, you'll see him all over Dallas. He's at our trainings. He's at the business presentation. He probably does the best presentation of the money that is done in the DFW area. He's awesome, very relaxed, not too salesy, but fun to listen to, and you get it. Hey, we all know that when we first look at the money, it's kind of hard to understand, but when this gentleman does it, it's as good as it can be. But also, he's very often at the big trainings that we do. He does a wonderful customer training, does fantastic role play in his trainings. This guy, you don't get much better than this guy when it comes to training and taking care of you if you're in his team. He has been in the business pretty much as long as I have, I believe, and you'll hear from him when he speaks. Sponsored by national consultants Richard and Miriam Wado, I think probably 6 or 7 years ago. I think it was 2010, I'm not sure. But he and I have been running together as MCs, RCs, SCs, and now ECs. So I want to bring this gentleman onto the call. He's a great, great friend of mine. We're running together. We train together. We do business presentations together. This guy's a really great friend of mine. Listen to everything he has to say because it'll be, I guarantee it's going to be full of gems. Executive Consultant, Mr. Kris, with a K, Brooks. Are you there, my friend?
Hello. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Well, Kris,
what's going on, brother, man?
Well, hey, listen, the good thing is that with a bit of a slip of the tongue from Michelle, she already introduced me as a pretty sexy host. And listen, there's not a more sexy man in Ambit than yourself. So this phone, everybody, you just feel the phone in your hands. Doesn't it feel a little warmer? Let's feel it. It feels a little warmer with two sexy guys like us. How could you have any difference? Kris, how are you, man?
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. So at least I got that above Paul Jenkins and Darren McClure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Way to make you feel really comfortable, by the way, to tell you that our last two guests were those guys.
Wow.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
I don't know if I could top them guys, but I certainly would love to share, my experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah. No, trust me. We've got very, very, pretty much all of the ECs in the DFW area. I would be proud to have any of them on my call right now. There are some really strong leaders in DFW right now. Obviously with Richard and Mary, our national consultants, moving out to Japan, there's quite a few of us kind of stepping up to the plate to fill some pretty big shoes. And I have to say, I'm very proud to be working with every one of them. So I think that's a good deal. But again, let's dive into this call.
Sure,
we've got people
absolutely.
from all around the country, as you heard, as people were coming on, Kris. And obviously most people in DFW will know who you are. But why don't you just for a few minutes, just kind of talk about, who you are, kind of what age bracket you're in, where you are, where you were from a working standpoint, family standpoint. I kind of like to get a real kind of warm and fuzzy feeling about, who you really are, and also your story, why you got into Ambit. Not the précis we get in the business presentations, but the real kind of meat
Sure.
and potatoes, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Absolutely. Well,
thank you.
I was I'll try and hit all the highlights of my story. I was born and raised in Indiana. I went to high school there. I went to college at IU, and then my family upped and rooted to Washington, D.C. And so in my early 20s, I lived in the Maryland, D.C. area, and that's when I got off into my career, which was advertising, and I was in that career for over 20 years. And that career, I got good. I got into management, and they started moving me all over the place. They moved me to Minnesota. They moved me back to Indiana. They moved me back to D.C., and then the final move was here in Dallas. And throughout the course of my advertising career, my early 20s, I was exposed to network marketing. I mean, I say often I don't have enough hands and toes to count all the different opportunities and, network marketing companies I tried. One of my very first ones in the early 80s after landing in D.C. was A.L. Williams. It was A.L. Williams at that time. We now are very familiar with it as being Prime America. Well, I lasted about 30 days. I lasted about 30 days there.
Wow. Okay.
So that didn't work. So again, I'm not going to go through all the different experiences, but I was exposed to network marketing, and that's important. And you'll know why as I continue on. Because once you've been exposed to the business model and you are a believer in the business model, then it will never, ever will leave you. regardless of your success or lack thereof. So coming to Dallas, I was in charge of a sales and marketing team, an advertising office and everything. And once again, being exposed to everything, because I had a lot of failures. Matter of fact, I failed at every single company. The only company I've been successful at is Ambit, and that's it. But when I was very first exposed to Ambit, it was one of those times where I started to itch again, meaning I started looking at network marketing again because, again, I believed in the business model. I just didn't understand how come I was failing why it wasn't working for me. Somebody's making money. So I actually started to itch again, and there was a newsletter in my neighborhood, in my cul-de-sac, that circled around. And on that newsletter, there was an ad saying something about saving money or making money and something like that. And so, I called them up, and they did everything wrong. They explained to me about the business. They told me it was $429 to get started, blah, 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 blah. The only thing right they did was they got their upline on the phone. And that was it. And he continued to give me some more information, so forth and so on. I think I remember them trying to get me out to a meeting. I vaguely remember that. But at the time, again, the $429 wasn't the problem. The problem was all my past experiences.
Right.
Now, I understood this is energy. This is different. I did see the difference, but there was a mental block. There was a mental block that I could not overcome. Well, as time goes by, probably 6 months, they never followed up with me. They never did.
Gosh. Oh, my
never
gosh.
followed up with me. And as time went on, what happened was June came along, I had a $500 electricity bill. And I'm by myself. I'm in a 2-story brick house. I have a pool, but I was by myself, and I had a $500 electricity bill when I'm used to $300 electricity bills. So I said to myself, I need to switch. But I procrastinated, and so that was June. Here comes July. I had a $700 electricity bill. What? And I said, oh, my God, stop the press. We're going to fix the thing. $700 electricity bill. And
how big's your house? How big's your house,
It's
dude?
not big. It's 2,200 square feet.
Oh, my
God. Not big. And so, I was shocked. And so I said, so I ran to the kitchen, and I looked for that newsletter. Because, understand, I was looking at $429, get a business, $700, pay an electricity bill. It was like a no-brainer. So I ran to the kitchen drawer where I thought I saved that newsletter. Everything else was in there, all kinds of coupons and stuff, but no newsletter. And so I was like, crap. But I remember, at this point in time, there's a lot of people that don't know here, and there's a lot of us that do know here in Dallas. Ambit was doing some branding back in 2010.
Right.
And what Ambit did, Ambit had billboards on every major highway. We got a couple major highways here, 635. We got 30 and 35 and 20. Ambit had billboards, 1-800-NEW-RATE.
I remember
they had
them.
Some folks that had, Adam and Michelle Carey were on a bus. And, I mean, they put out some millions of dollars to help us kind of do some branding, help us get our name out there. So when we independent consultants go out and talk to our friends and family, they will say, I seem like I've heard of that somewhere before. That's how advertising works, okay? You don't necessarily know exactly where, but it's very subliminal. Anyway, 1-800-NEW-RATE was on I remember that because, again, I'm in advertising. So 1-800-NEW-RATE, I called them up, got a hold of corporate. I said, hey, my name's Kris Brooks. I want to be a consultant. I know it's $429 to join. I want to be a consultant. And they said, well, what side of town do you live on? I said, listen, I don't want to go to no meeting. I want to be a consultant.
Yeah.
And they's like, we don't sign up consultants. I said, well, can you give me somebody? Give me somebody. Give me a name. And they said, well, Mary and Richard Amuedo, they're top 30 income. Bingo, that's who I want. Give me them. And gave me Mary Amuedo's phone number. I gave Mary a call, got her voicemail, said, hey, this is Kris Brooks. I want to be a consultant. Give me a call back. She calls back, and about 15 minutes later, hey, how are you?
That sounds just like Mary. That sounds just like her.
Okay, great. So how do you know about Ambit? And I had to give her the whole, background, my advertising, and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, well, so what side of town do you live on? I said, listen, I don't want to go to no meeting. I want to be a consultant. Well, okay. Here's my website. She gave me her website, and I hung up the phone. And I realized this is a funny part, a little small funny part about the story. I realized that my internet was down. I was like, crap, I can't sign up. My internet's down. So I called her back, and I said, hey, Mary, I forgot my internet's down. Now, we here I am 6 years, almost 6.5 years in the business. Somebody tell me that, I'm like, oh, yeah, right. Okay, here we go.
Exactly.
Here we go. But it really was down. But I had my very first iPhone. It was an iPhone 3. So, again, this tells you how long ago it was. I had an iPhone 3, and I said, wait a minute. I'm talking to Mary on the phone. I said, I got an iPhone. Ain't that a computer? She's like, yeah.
Now you sound like an old man. Ain't that
right. Ain't that
one
a computer?
Of the things?
I got one of these smartphone thingies. Can I just do it on that?
I love it.
She's like, yeah, and I did. I signed up on my phone. I signed myself up on my phone. It's really ironic. I sign people up all the time on my phone now, today, customers and consultants. It's a trip. So that's how I got started in the business, man. That's the abridged version. I left a lot of stuff out there, but that's really the high points of how I got started in the business.
You know what's cool? What's really cool about that? For those of you who are listening in, is sometimes we're working like crazy and it seems like nothing's going your way, and then every now and again it seems like you can't do anything wrong. Well, Richard and Mary Amuedo must have been in there. I can't do anything wrong right now, because not only did you join, but you became one of the ECs that sent them to NC, right?
Yeah,
I think they were probably pretty glad that they got a call from corporate to say, hey, there's this crazy advertising guy who doesn't want to go to no meeting, who wants to become a consultant. And that's awesome. I love that. That's a great story.
Right.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because when I first started the business, I was riddled with stigma. I'd done Amway. You see, like you said, I had fallen in love with the model. And it was like this love-hate thing. I loved the model, but I'm like, why doesn't this work? And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be the snake oil salesman. I don't want to be the guy who's selling the products. Like you, I can sell. I just don't want to. I don't want to. So how did you overcome? I mean, because it wasn't like you had to be sold into it. You knew it. How did you get through the stigma side? I mean, if you did 5, 6, 7 businesses, I'm sure some were good, some were bad. Obviously, Primerica is awesome. It's a great company, top 10 in the DSN list. But how did you get through the stigma? How did you put that to one side? Because I'm sure there's some people on the call. We've got a lot of people on the call for you, by the way, Kris. There's a lot, and they're from all around the country. So I'm sure there's a bunch of folks out there, especially the older ones, who may still feel that feeling of stigma. Because I know I did probably for a year before it went away completely. How did you get over that, and how quickly did you get over it if it was still there when you started the business?
Oh, well, first of all, logically, I got my advertising business helped me. Logically, my advertising, us, we men, we're logical thinkers, right? We make decisions logically and things like that. That's what we say. But so my average, I'm going to a business owner. I had, Dickey's barbecue restaurant owners as customers, and I'm coming to them and I'm asking them to spend $6,000 on something that is intangible. Advertising is intangible. And so I'm asking you to spend $6,000. Now I'm coming to you, and I'm not asking you to spend any money. I'm asking you to save some money. So logically, in my mind, that's one thing that helped me. But what really helped me get over the stigma, because there still was, with all the other companies that I did, Richard, there was always this little thorn in my side. It was always this little, I always did kind of feel kind of slimish, kind of snake oil sales guyish, with, trying to pitch you this juice, trying to pitch you this vitamin. I always kind of felt a little thorn in my side, because I'm coming to you and asking you to spend some money on something that you might have money for and you might not, but because you like me, you love me, you're going to do it anyway. But with energy, with Ambit Energy, I'm not coming to you asking you to spend any money. I'm coming to you and I'm asking you to help save money. And so what got me into that mode and really just locked and loaded into that is Brian McClure. I mean, the early days, very extremely fortunate to have the number one income earner drive up to Dallas every Saturday for 3 years, virtually every Saturday. There was a few Saturdays he wasn't there, but virtually over 95% of the Saturdays out of those 3 years, Brian McClure would drive up to Dallas and have a training from 9 a.m. to 12. From 9 to 12. Now, if you're in Austin, that's 3 hours away, and he's at the training center before 9, usually there by 8-ish, 8:15, something like that. You know how early he's got to get up? And when I first met Brian McClure, his residual income was over $100,000. And that was like a huge clue for me. And so engulfing myself into Brian McClure every Saturday as much as I can, the power trips, haven't missed a power trip. The trainings is what helped me overcome the stigmas of this industry. Understanding what the stigmas are, the myths are. You got to get in at the you got to get in early. No, that's not. That may be so with the product-based business, but this opportunity grows and grows every time we open up a new market. Boom, the opportunity has just grown. We're about to expand into Japan next month. The opportunity has just grown. We're at the bottom floor. Everybody gets a chance to be at the bottom floor. So that myth does not exist in Ambit Energy. You got to get in at the bottom. Another myth that does not exist in Ambit Energy because of the trainings that we go to is all the money's at the top. Well, if you understand our compensation plan, all the money's at the bottom. I mean, Ambit is amazing. The way they did our compensation plan. See, it's not about Richard Laidler going out there being super stud and being able to, get all these accounts himself and da-da-da-da. No, he gets the small piece of the pie. We get the small piece of the pie. We have to help our team. We have to build our team. We have to help our team. That's the only way we can get the big pieces of the pie. I mean, once again, one of Brian's famous lines is, bury your success in the success of others, and yours becomes a byproduct.
Exactly.
So a lot of the times I talk to people and I say, man, if you're not a person that likes to help, if you don't have a servant attitude, a servant heart, then this business might not be for you.
Chris,
might not be for you.
It's Chris, what's interesting is I even though my upline is now an EC, my sponsor, I actually out earn him by quite a lot now, which just again disproves that theory that it's only the people who got in early who make all the money. There are plenty of people. In fact, you've heard Brian say this, that Brian says that probably the number one income earner in 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years, maybe 10 years may not have even joined the business yet.
Exactly.
That blows my mind.
Exactly. Yeah, it blows my mind. Absolutely. So that's what helps me deal with all the stigmas of the business.
You know, and I couldn't agree more. And personally, the way I got over it was I kind of said, well, why do I have the stigma? And the bottom line, it was because I just, you know, I obviously lacked the belief in Ambit, even though I kind of knew. This is in the early days. In the early days, I thought, it's Jerry Thompson. It should be good. We're already doing, we weren't doing $1 billion then when I joined, but we were doing like 400 million. I think this should be good. And I thought, well, if the lack of belief is the only thing that's a problem, I need to up my belief, because I didn't know then. I know now, like you know now. We know it works. So I just went to the really big events, and I went to Ambition, and that solved my problem. I came out of Ambition wearing an Ambit Energy T-shirt, and you would never have caught me dead in one of those things. So for me, it was the big events and then making a comma in my check. I think that was for me. Is that kind of what represented it for you?
Yeah, you know, once again, it's all it's impossible for you. I mean, I would find it impossible for somebody to go to all of our events, the regional events, the corporate sponsored events, the local training events. I'd like to meet that individual that went through all that stuff, applied that stuff, and not have success.
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely
And I simply went
agree.
because, you know, I heard all the leaders. I heard all the leaders from Brian McClure to Steve Thompson to Kris Atkins and Debbie and Regina Gale, everybody. This is what they did. Well, I want that income, so it's real simple. Find somebody that they have what you want and do what they do. You know, Philip Eckhart, you know, the man can hardly speak. I mean, I love Philip. I love Philip, you know, but he's always there. He's at all the major events. So just model what the leaders are doing. And you'll get it.
He's one of my upline I'd like to out-earn. I think last time we heard he was like $400,000 a month or something. So he's one I'd like to bypass. I've got my sponsor out-earned, but my national is Philip Eckhart, so he's my next target. Boy, I can't even imagine that sort of money. Yeah, I can't even imagine that. You could go and buy 2 Ferraris 1 month with cash, and then next month your money's back. You know?
Yeah, your money's back. Now what are we gonna go buy? How about let's go buy an airplane?
Hey, listen, Kris. Let's get into some nitty gritty here, because I know that's what people really like about our calls. Let's go back to Kris as an MC and an RC and an SC, and let's talk about the crappy stuff. Let's talk about the stuff that went wrong. The stuff that, you know, try to, you know, kind of just tell Kris this doesn't work. I don't know anybody who makes any money. I remember the first guy I took to a meeting, he said, "Get me out of this room. I'm embarrassed. I guarantee no one in this room is making more than $5,000 every 3 months." And Brian McClure was in the room.
Oh, wow.
You know, and I was like, ugh, you know, and it was my first meeting. Let's talk about that, because it's the vulnerability that I know that really inspires me. And I know a lot of people on the call really are inspired by that, you know, by how did we get through people telling us that crappy stuff. And you're an MC. How did you get on as an MC? Did you do okay? Did you get to RC quickly, slowly?
I did not. I joined the business. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
I joined the business, and I did nothing for 20 days. I did nothing for 20 days. Mary called me up and said, "You're about to lose out on your bonus." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
We know Mary so well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, she's like flicking her hair when she's saying that.
How many days? Like, I don't know. Go into Power Zone and look. So I logged into Power Zone. I see I had 8 days. I was like, oh, my gosh.
And you had no customers.
No customers. Zero customers. You know, well, myself. I had one. I had myself.
Okay.
So I did have myself. I did sign myself up. But other than that was it. And so I was just like, okay, this is easy. This is simple. I am a regional sales manager. I hire and train sales people. This is going to be like taking candy from a baby. Come on now, really? I'm not asking for any money. I'm going to help you. So I had a nice little sales pitch, and I called people up, and they said no. And I called somebody, no's not going to bother me. I'm in sales, right? Lived on commission for over 20 years. So a no, so what? On to the next one. A no, so what? On to the next one. A no, so what? On to that. No. Wait a minute. What the hell is going on here? And so I called Mary I remember it like yesterday. I called Mary on Saturday morning because I was making these phone calls because I had 8 days left. I called Mary and I said, Mary, this ain't working. And she's like, well, what are you saying? I said, well, I'm asking them who their energy provider is. Wrong. Huh? What do you mean? Well, I asked them, I told them I can save them some money. Wrong. Kris, did you watch the video on how to gather customers? No, Mary, I don't have time. I don't have time to watch the video on gather customers. Kris, it's 6 minutes. It's 6 minutes. Okay. So I watched the video, and it was Brian McClure going over the 3 methodologies of gathering a customer. It's on Brian's website. And so I sat there and watched it, and I was just like, oh, my gosh, no wonder I'm having my head handed to me. Duh, I'm doing this all wrong. And I just hear my own self talking to one of my sales reps that I just hired. Hey, listen, you got a lot of experience selling newspaper stuff, but you need to learn this. Okay, forget about what you know in the newspaper business. You need to learn this. And I just hear and I was doing exactly like these other, day one dingbats would do.
Day one dingbats. I love it.
I didn't go any training. I thought I knew it all, this guy, blah, 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 And I was wrong, but once I actually sat down and watched that video, I was like, oh, my gosh. So what I did is I took that iPhone 3 and I set it next to my computer, and I tape recorded the concept of how to gather a customer. And I walked around my house all day Saturday listening, learning to that over and over and over again. I just put earbuds in my ear, and I just played it, and I just walked all day. Come Sunday after church, man, I was ready to make my first phone call. And I did. And the person cut me off and said, yes, Kris, sure. I didn't even finish the whole, script, if you will, The person said, yeah, well, so what do you need me to do? Sure. And that whole premise of asking somebody to do you a favor is ingenious. It's ingenious. And if you're not doing that, I'm telling you, you need to do it. You need to get with Richard. You need to get with some, you can go to topambitleaders.com. You can click on training. You can click on customer gathering. I mean, it's ingenious. I got 3 customers Sunday afternoon. After church, 3. Boom, 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 boom. Done.
From doing nothing. From Mr. Sales Guy with a nice sales pitch getting nothing, then you get 3. Isn't it funny how, let me tell you, Mary's the only, other than my wife, Mary's the only 5'4", probably less than 100 pounds, 110 pound Asian girl who can push you and I around. I'm 260. Right. You're like 6'3", whatever. And she's pushing us around, saying, do it right. My big mistake was not doing 3-way calls, obviously, and she dragged me to one side and taught me a new one to correct me on that. And it's great. That's great. I know that that the whole favor approach has always been very popular. Another way of doing the same thing is asking for support for your business.
Exactly.
Either one, whichever one you're more comfortable with, works wonderfully. I'd love you to support my business. I say that when we opened our restaurants, I said, hey, come along, try the food. Love you to support the business and tell your friends about us. And people come along when you ask them for that type of thing. People will do what they need to do to help you out. So good stuff. Absolutely. Good stuff on that. And I'm actually, just so you know, Kris, I'm getting feedback. I try to make my calls organic, and everybody has my number. I'm going to say it again, 214-766-4613. For any thumbs up, thumbs down, questions, thoughts, whatever. I got one from Dennis, who's on the line right now. He said, this call with Kris Brooks is so encouraging, Richard. Awesome. Need this right now. And I think I'm kind of touching right on the basis here. When people first start in the business. They're so vulnerable, aren't they? It's like you see those little turtles crawling from the eggs to the seashore, hoping that the birds don't pick them off the beach and this type of thing. And that's where MCs and sometimes young RCs are. They're so vulnerable at the very beginning. What would you say to those folks? Because we got a lot of new people on the call right now who are, kind of not necessarily, getting the responses that they want, from customers or consultants. What would you have to say to them?
I wished I would have submitted to the mentorship program a lot sooner. Good word. I like that. Submitted to the mentorship program a whole lot sooner, because like you, Mary had to get on you about three-way calls. Well,
yes, she did.
Richard had to get on me as well. But Richard's got a very funny sense of humor, and if you don't know Richard, you kind of think he's a schmuck.
Oh, I'm so going to edit that call so it makes it sound like you just said. I'm gonna put some fake news out there. Chris Brooks says Richard Amway.
No. I love Richard though. I love Richard because you'll give Richard a call and say, man, look, man, I'm just not getting any momentum in my business, man. Getting some invitations out there. I'm doing this, and people are seeing the video and stuff, and it's like, well, it's fun. I haven't had any three-way calls from you this week.
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, okay.
Yeah, well, and let me tell you this, and here's the other thing that's just as interesting, Chris, and you know this as well as I do, because you and I have both had intimate conversations with Richard and Mary, was when they were first starting, they had exactly the same too. They got it just as wrong at the beginning as we did. And they went to Brian McClure. Brian McClure mentored them through their MT and RC and SC positions and until they got it. And now it's our turn, obviously with Richard and Mary, obviously going over to Japan, where we're going to help people, go through those things with us. And I know my team come to me and they think, oh, Richard, you won't understand this, but, my customers say this or my consultants say this. I'm like, I had a year or 2 years of that myself. We went through exactly the same thing, and both Chris and I, but all we did was submit to the training, and that's a great word, Chris, great word. Submit to the training, the right training. That's also important. And we never quit. If you do that, then that is really awesome. And thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome. But okay, so for those of you who are out there listening to the call who are maybe not getting things aren't going as well as you hoped, that's business anyway. When I first started my Dickey's Barbecue restaurants, it was heartbreaking having spent $300,000 on a new building and watch everybody walk by to go and get pizza next door for the first few days. And it's just like, oh my God. And you think, I made a mistake. No, that's business. That's just the nature of business. It takes a little while. And submit to the training and just never quit, and you'll be fine. And you'll be ECs just like Chris and I, and then go on to MCs like Chris and I are hoping to do. So let me ask you this. Let's say you got someone in your business, and I know senior consultant Paul Mitchell likes this question. Not that he has this problem because he's fought through it. He's just recently sponsored someone. But the question, what do you say to someone in your team who's hit a roadblock or who is just not able to move ahead? So we're not talking about the new people here. We're talking about maybe some RCs who are heading towards SC or whatever. Yeah. What do you say to them when they go, you know what, I haven't recruited it. I just can't recruit anyone. Customers are telling me, that our rates aren't good or this or that or the other. What do you talk to people who are coming to you with that type of thing? What do you say to them?
Let me answer that question with giving you the history, okay, of MC, RC, SC, EC, okay? So it took me came into business in July 2010. I personally sponsored 4 people, 4 out of the 6. Out of those 4, obviously, one person sponsored one, another person sponsored another one, and that was it. The other 2 didn't sponsor anything. And I was at the very first Ambition in 2010. Again, I came in July. Ambition was in September, and I was a couple people shy of being an RC at Ambition. Coming out of my first Ambition, I was pumped, excited, as we all are. It took me 4 months to become, I became an RC shortly after that. 4 more months later, I became a SC. 4 months later, I became an SC.
Nice.
And then SC hell.
I remember those days.
SC held 3 years as an SC. 3 years as an SC. Now I did have some personal issues going on in my life, to be honest with you. But I went through a divorce and things like that, and but it didn't. I never quit. It was just I just kept pushing through. I just kept going. Sidetracked. Running a sales office. At this point in time, I was actually a corporate trainer, and I was flying around and blah blah blah. So it was hard to build my business at the same time going through the divorce, but still, I knew where I wanted to be. I knew I was going to be an EC. And so now, so I started setting goals, right? All the training, hey, get a vision board, set the goal. Okay, hey, EC by 2012, EC by 13, and it kept changing, and it kept changing, and it kept changing.
Mine
and I asked Richard, I said, hey, man, you guys have been EC a long time, okay? How do you overcome getting this? So, hey, did you guys just hear what I said? I called Richard. Uh-oh, that's that mentorship I'm talking about. So I called Richard, and I asked him, I said, you guys have been ECs for a long time. How do you deal with it? You guys say you want to be NC, and you're not. And you want to be NC, and you're not. And you want to be. How do you deal with that? And he coached me how to get through with that. So how do you get through the stumbling block? How do you get through the lulls in your business? Is you call your mentor.
And Kris, you know what's really funny about that is I know because of the conversations with Richard that they were frustrated that they were taking longer than they wanted to get to NC. You know who they called? Their upline, Brian McClure. Well, not their upline, but Brian McClure.
Yeah, but they called their mentor. They called their mentor.
They called their mentor. There's a clue there, Kris.
I don't know about you,
but I'm spotting a clue.
Jerry Thompson Jr. has stated many times, no one is successful by themselves.
Yeah.
And see, this is a paradigm shift that we all really got to get into. We're so used to personal production. I don't care if you're a forklift driver. Okay, we're also used to personal production. We're used to doing things on our own and getting recognized for it and getting paid for it. We're not used to team and leaning on a team and using the team to push us over the fence.
Yeah,
Can
you imagine in a job?
And
it's like and you're absolutely right. That's a very good observation. We're not used to reaching out for help. When I was in a job in between my failing businesses in my 20s, the thought of going to my manager and making myself vulnerable and asking for help was just a big no-no. You do not do that because it's going to be he's now going to be looking at your weaknesses and thinking, well, maybe I should replace this guy if he needs help and blah, 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 blah. That's completely the opposite in this business. Completely the opposite. But as you quite rightly say, people are not used to it. We've been programmed not to ask for help. Otherwise, we look stupid, or we think we do. But in this business, that's not true. That's a great observation, Kris.
Absolutely the reverse. Absolutely the reverse. It's designed for you to get help. It's designed for you to get help. I mean, the levels. The levels are nothing more than apprenticeships. Okay, that's all they are. The levels are nothing more but apprenticeships. Okay, now you've gotten to RC. Now you know how to get to RC. Now you can be an apprentice to someone in their MC code because you've gotten there. You know.
No, and I think that's right. Even those people, even if you're an MC and you've got your couple of customers and you've maybe got a couple of consultants. When someone starts new, you have a small leadership role. You've got a couple of customers and you've got a couple of consultants. You can help. You can guide, even at that early stage. I mean, you're going to reach higher than that in most cases to your SC and your EC, but even as an MC, you can help your team, even if your help is to say, let's get our SC on the line. Let's get our EC on the line, and they'll help you get through this. And that's the one thing for those of you on the call. I know there's people on the call right now. Some of you who have just got like momentum coming out the wazoo. Some of you who have slowed down a little bit after some momentum, or some people who are trying to push through. Bottom line is plug into your upline, but also get to your business presentation, like going to church, right? You know, we know the story. We've been every week. We know that story. We've had it since we were kids, but there's something about going to church every week, to fellowship, 9,000 people around you agreeing with you. I watched back in my time when I would watch keynote speeches from Jerry, Ambition. If you go onto YouTube, you can do Ambition 2000. Do you remember 2011, that Ambition, when Kris did the charge speech?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Everyone on this call, if you haven't heard that speech, do a search for Kris Chambliss Ambition 2011 and listen to his keynote and listen to Jerry Thompson's keynote as well. That will give you that new infusion of belief and refill your soul, because sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need that. You know, sometimes we question our faith, right? And so we need it. We go and see who's important. We'll see our pastor. We'll see our, church leader or whatever it happens to be to get that refill of faith. So good stuff, man. This is really, really awesome. I'm glad we're getting into some of this stuff. What about we've got some, obviously we've got a couple of, I got 3 texts that have come through all saying, yes, I watched that 2011. People who have come in after that time, 2011 speech, and they're saying how great it was watching it back. You should have seen it live, guys. You should have seen it live.
Oh, man.
Let me ask you this. We're at 9:46, Kris. We're at 9:46, and I'd like to cover a couple of things. We're in a potentially triple bonus period right now, if you are registered for Ambition. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then if you wouldn't mind, then just segue into your thoughts about Japan. And then we'll kind of right at the very end get kind of what your vision is for the company and yourself and stuff, and then we'll sign off. But if you could kind of cover those types of points, that'll be great.
Super. Yeah, this just happened today. This is about triple. Okay, this is a real live triple. Sometimes you got to, Brian McClure used to say all the time, show them the money. You got to show them the money, right? And so and so sometimes it's when the opportunity is right in our face, that's when we really got to dig in. So I have a new consultant. They've been in the business. They're MC. They're working hard. I mean, actually, I have to tell the story because it's a great story about our system. But I'll be fast. So the husband signed up in the business about 60 days ago. Got that $100 check. The wife intercepted the mail and opened up the check. She opened up. She saw $100 from this Ambit business that he had told her about. He told her about it, but she saw this $100 check, and she's like, "How do we get more of this? What do we do? How do we do that? She has taken over the business. I don't talk to the husband anymore. I only talk to her.
Isn't that the truth?
And so anyway, so she's got a new consultant on her team and everything, and triggered the bonus. Well, 2 other customers came in, and before I teach my team, if you don't have 20 customers, you put them underneath me. Then we can decide what we want to do with them. Okay.
Right.
And so 2 customers came in, 2 more customers came in, and so I called her today, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to move these 2 customers underneath Belinda, and she's going to get another $100. You're going to get another $100, or would you like to have $200?" Well, yeah, I want $200. Well, because, see, we're in the triple bonus. You've been hearing about ambition. You're not registered for ambition. If you can get registered by Friday midnight, then instead of $100, you're going to get $200. And yes, okay, you have to pay $169 for ambition. So you're still going to come net. You're still going to net, $30 or so. You're still going to. So ambition is going to be paid for you. Or you could just not register for ambition, and you're going to get $100, and then you still got to pay $169 later on down the road for ambition.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think I can register. Let me see if I can register today.
Right. And the thing is, what about if she brings 2 or 3 more consultants in the next week or two?
Exactly. That was the next breath, because
right.
we got some other people that are on the fence. Another potential consultant that's on the fence named Jonathan. I said, listen, when Jonathan comes in, actually Jonathan is coming in the business tomorrow at 3:00. And when Jonathan gets 4 customers, you're going to make $300. Okay. Let me talk to my husband, and we're going to get registered.
That's it.
Show them the money. Sometimes, we promote really, ambition, simulcast, the regional trainings, the local trainings. We promote all that because it's important. Nobody's making any money. Hey, I was on the EC fly-in. I'm sorry, Richard, you didn't get an opportunity to be in the EC fly-in. I feel sorry for you early EC guys.
Whatever.
But
whatever.
But I tell you, to sit in front of Jerry and Kris and John and Lori Rodriguez and they just map it out for us, man. They spend about it's up now to about $700 per person. Okay.
For the ECs that fly in.
No. I'm talking about ambition. I'm sorry, I confused you. I'm talking about ambition. I'm talking about like $700 a person. Okay. So our little $149, $169, man, they lose money every year. It is not a money-making event, and I know a lot of new people think, oh, man, just making money off these events and blah, blah, blah. No. Now, if you ever run into any other people, Mary Kay is huge here in Dallas, right? The corporate office is here, and, when Mary Kay has their event, it's just huge. And I've asked the Mary Kay consultants, how much is your event? Man, it is ridiculous. They pay $200 for this. They pay $100 for this. Oh, if you want to go to that, it's another $100. It's crazy how much money they spend on their events. So ambition, extremely important. Guarantee you, by far, you'll make your money. The statistics don't lie. Every single time, when people that go to ambition make more money the following year. And it's true in my case. It's true in my case.
And mine. Yeah, me too.
True in my case. So ambition is definitely it. You want your team to explode, and you got to do that. All right, Japan. Oh, my gosh. Japan is crazy. Let me talk about Japan because, we have such great leaders, such smart people. Again, Brian McClure, if you can't tell, I love this guy. Over 30 years, he's so wise in this industry. And he paid his dues early on, if you've ever heard his story. But Brian just says, listen, I know you guys don't know anybody. I don't know anybody from Japan. Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm not going to make no money. Well, if that's your attitude, then that's correct. Then you're not going to make any money. But if you have an attitude of, I don't know how, I just believe somehow I'm going to make some money. It's $70 billion market. It's 80 million customers now have a choice in the first time in their life.
Right. The whole country is deregulated. Not like here. Right.
It's a year old. That's number one. Number two, the industry is a profession over there. It's a profession. It's it's highly respected. It does not have the stigmas that it has in the U.S. Network marketing is a profession over there. It's highly regarded. Okay, so that's why it's the number 3 network marketing country in the world. Number 3, really? Okay, there's a clue. So when they get their hands on energy, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you get a hold? Well, right now we can't do any advertising, but we can definitely play the who do you know game. You can play the who do you know game. Who do you know that lives in Japan? Who do you know that might know somebody that lives in Japan? You just ask those two questions. I guarantee you your list will start to grow. It will start to grow.
It's the 6 degrees of separation, isn't it? Everybody, isn't it? Somebody, you know everybody in the world through 6 people or something, which is crazy.
I think we're closer than that. I really do. I think we are closer than that. I mean, just on Monday, I met a gentleman at 7-Eleven, okay? And, you don't want to profile people, but my gosh, why not?
He looks Asian.
You strike up a conversation with him. Hey, how you doing? Hey, you work around here? Blah, blah. Yeah. Oh, you do? Okay, great. Where's home for you? Just ask that question. Where's home for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in town working. Oh, really? Wow. Where's home for you? Japan? You're kidding me. No, I'm serious. Japan. I'm going home on Thursday. He's going home tomorrow. So, yes, I have his contact information. We exchange Facebooks. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable just playing the who do you know game, and it's very exciting. It's a lot of fun.
You know what also is interesting about that, from the contacts that I have in Japan, they don't like their current incumbent supplier. The monopoly that had it before, they don't like them. So they're desperate to change. They're desperate for opportunity to change. So that's always great news. It was like back in the days when people, and I know I don't want to mention a certain 3-letter company in Texas who had the monopoly for a while. But it was like everybody hated them, and it was got to move away, and it's not quite so much like that as it is now in Texas, but in Japan it's like it was. It's like the gold rush. It's like everybody hates the current incumbent. They've got very little choice, and we're going to be there covering the whole country immediately. I think that's a good opportunity. So who do you know, and who do you know who knows someone? It's just asking the question right now. I've done it so many times. I've got over 50 different methods of getting into Japan directly and indirectly and through my team. Just because, and I don't know anybody in Japan. The only I know one person who's married to a good friend of mine, and that was it. And the rest all came from who do you know and this type of thing. So that's really good. So listen, we're almost up to the hour. These calls, I always want them to be somewhere around 40 minutes, but they're so good, and I get so many texts saying this is just exactly what I needed. I kind of hold you on the phone for longer. I keep you entertained so you don't think, hold on, this is longer than 40 minutes. Richard's got me on the phone for an hour. What's going on? I'm going to give you the last word before I say goodbye and sign off with everybody. What would you say? I mean, you feel it in Dallas. I know I feel it in Dallas. The excitement and for the growth of what's going on right now. What do you have to say to? We've got, as I say, a lot of people on the calls. People from new to old. People who've been in the business a long time, people with momentum, people without momentum. What would you say to folks right now as a last word to round off the call?
I'd say what I'm telling myself right now. Decide, pay the price, and go to work.
Perfect.
Decide. Is this what you want? I mean, seriously, you got. We this deregulation is the last. It's the last thing that's going to deregulate, unless they deregulate water or something. Air. It's the largest transference in American history, according to Warren Buffett. It's ridiculous. And so, decide, pay the price, because we're not going to get anything for free. Okay. And go to work.
Perfect.
That's what I'm telling myself.
Succinct and to the point, because that decision thing is really important. People say decide. Well, no. Just make one decision, not a decision each time you're tired and not going to a business presentation. Oh, shall I go tonight? No. You decided today. Let's decide today, and then next Thursday you don't think, well, am I going to go or not? No. You decided a week ago. The decision is once, not every time you've got to go and do something. Just one decision. That's perfect. I could not have put it more perfectly. That's just succinct and, just wonderful. Hey, Kris, I can't thank you enough. That was awesome. I've got so many comments and thumbs up and stuff like that. I'm going to make sure I record this call. I'll make sure I put it up on the EC Riders Facebook page. I'm still getting texts. I'm going to get up on the Facebook page. The recording will be there. I'll make sure I put it on the EC Riders page and my own personal page. So for those who wish their team was listening, I know I've always had that through my Ambit days. I wish my team was listening to this. Now it's being recorded thanks to the wonders of technology. Kris, thank you so much, my friend. I'm so happy. We've been running together for a long time. We had those green senior pins for a long time. Nothing wrong with them. They're great. They're great aspirations. But remember those years up at the training center where we were like, come on, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. We've got to do it.
Yes. I appreciate you for having me, man. I'm really honored. Thank you for having me.
Hey, no. I knew this was going to be a great call. So, guys, thank you. I'm going to unmute the lines in a second so you can say thanks to Kris. So don't disappear just yet. But just to let you guys know, we've obviously got a brand new victim on the Purge call on Sunday. So make sure you're on that call. And I'm very excited to work on that. As I say, I'm going to make sure that the recording for this is going to be on the relevant Facebook pages. And I'm going to open up the lines here, if I can find my deal here. So you can say thank you to Kris. Guys, have a great night. And listen well to what Kris had to say. The pain you're going through, for those of you who are having any, I promise you, Kris and I had it. We had it. Just keep going. Keep going. We'll always, always, always be there to help you. There's a lot of great trainings coming up. We've got a lot of stuff going on in DFW with obviously our new offices in Carrollton coming up. And I know that, Kris, I know you're going to be working with EC Doug Parker and EC Jared Abshire to work with the trainings. We're also going to be moving a little bit further Fort Worth way so we can include the people over in the Fort Worth area and pull in Paul Jenkins and Darren McClure to come and help us train as well. There's a lot of great stuff going on right now, guys. So great. Thanks so much, everybody, for getting on the call. I'm going to open up the lines right now so you can say thank you and good night to Kris. Good night, everybody, guys, and I will see you all very soon.
Thank you, Kris. Man, that was awesome. Thanks, Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
This
is Robert from Conroe. Hey, Kris, this is Rodney from Lancaster. You did an awesome job, man.
Thanks, Kris. That was awesome. Hey, Kris. This is Ronnie and Dave from New York. Awesome.
Hey, Kris, this is Roy Pavel from Stamford, Connecticut. Thank you, and thank you, Richard.
Another great call, Kris. Excellent call.
Vicky said hi, Kris. She's awesome. She said